So we're beginning in a seated position that feels comfortable for you. And that might mean that you're elevating your hips. It could even mean, if you're at home, that you're in a chair. And we're starting a little bit of mindful exploration of the physical body. So we might choose to shift forward and back of our sitting bones and just feeling into the sensations that our body is offering us. And eventually shifting one side and then the other. And then maybe when we're ready, we start to circle around. A reminder, if you like to track your movement with your fitness device, don't forget to turn it on. And if we're taking these circles, we'll go the other direction. Eventually, we'll come to a seated place, feeling into the sitting bones and then inviting the torso to get taller. And we'll roll our shoulders up and down our backs a few times. Feeling into sensations our body is offering. And then pausing for a moment, just noticing this outer layer, this physical body, and reminding ourselves during our practice, we're listening to this physical body, the wisdom that the body offers. So when we're ready, we'll take an inner view into our energy. So maybe our eyes are closed and we're just assessing the energy that we're bringing to our mat today. Now, this is a special day, election day, and there is a lot of energy that's around this day, right? And so noticing the energy that you've brought, and then identifying perhaps, is it a positive or a negative emotion, right? So our yoga practice can help us work through the emotions that we would consider to be negative. So perhaps there's anxiety about this day for you, and worry or fear about the outcome, right? So the good news is that our yoga tools help us to deal with those emotions, because the emotions like anxiety, worry, and fear show up physically, right? So there's that connection between our emotions and our energy and our physical body. And so grounding, like we've done, helps us to feel more in control, in charge, right? And so we've identified the energy that's related to our emotions. And then we're going to use our yoga tools to help us work through any negative emotions that we might be feeling. And then can we replace it? Can we change the attitude toward it? So let's begin to focus on breath. And then I'll talk a little bit more about this transition. So maybe hands are on the torso. This is another way that we ground when we bring hands to rest on our body. It is grounding, calming, comforting. And we begin to notice how we're breathing. Now, the whole time I've been talking, maybe you've already been easing into an intentional breath. And we'll just continue that, eventually cultivating 3-part breath, and then resulting in an ujjayi layer with that 3-part breath. So we'll take just a few more moments here as we feel the breath expanding. Now, the breath is related to our energy layer. And we know that the breath is the tool that we have to impact the nervous system, which is an automatic part of our being, but we can influence the nervous system with our breathing. So we know that we can breathe steadily, smoothly, deeply, and that creates a feeling of calmness. It can help bring down our energy. We can also use different breath techniques to raise up our energy. So we're feeling into our breath and feeling perhaps a shift in energy. And then when we're ready, we're beginning to add some movement to this breath practice. So we'll bring our arms at our sides. And as we breathe in next, we're reaching our arms up. And as we breathe out, we'll lower our arms down. Inhaling, lifting our arms, and exhaling, lowering our arms. And each of us moving at a pace that honors our body in this moment. And maybe our eyes are open, maybe our eyes are closed. So we're combining the physical and the energy, or the breath layer, by moving and breathing together. Now, following our next breath in, our arms are reaching up. As we breathe out, this time the arms are lowering down in front and the palms are facing. And as we inhale, let's open our arms. And as we exhale, let's draw our arms toward each other. Inhaling, opening up. And exhaling, arms draw toward each other. And feeling into the shoulders, the upper back, the chest, maybe the neck here in our wing to chest expansion. Now, the next time, our arms draw toward each other in the front. We'll lower our arms. And if we're seated cross-legged or any asymmetrical way, then we'll switch to the other side. If that's comfortable for the joints, right? So we might feel a difference in the hips, the knees, just making sure there's comfort there. And then we'll begin some cow and cat flow. So we'll shift forward and we'll lift up through the ribs. And then as we shift back, we'll allow those ribs to kind of tuck in. So we're moving through our flexion and extension of the spine, like a seated cow and cat. Just feeling into the sensations there. And following our next cat pose, we're transitioning into a lateral flexion, side bending. We'll inhale and lift the right arm up. Can we root that right sitting bone down? And as we exhale, we'll lower, we'll switch sides. Inhaling, rooting more into the left sitting bone, reaching the left arm up. So feeling that side bending, moving with the breath. maybe more of a side opening as opposed to bending. Now, eventually, we're balancing between our two sides. And then we're moving into rotation. So tall spine breathing in, breathing out. We'll twist toward one side, back to center on our inhale, and then exhaling. So remembering we are warming up our bodies. So noticing if there's any sort of forcing in the movements. Just kind of a coaxing into rotation here. And we're noticing perhaps parts that are stiff, maybe in the neck and the shoulders. We're frequently talking about that. And I have some good news that after today, we won't be getting any more political phone calls or texts or seeing political ads on the TV. I know we're all going to be grateful for that. Because when we're confronted with these big issues that our country is facing, that's creating stress in all of us. And stress frequently shows up in terms of tension in these upper torso muscles. Let's balance between our two sides. We'll come back into our breath. So as we breathe into three-part breath, we're feeling the breath in the belly, up into the ribs, the sides of the ribs, the back of the ribs, and then up into the heart space. Now, coming back to our energy, do you need a little bit more energy today, or do you need to take it down a few notches? So here's what we're doing. If you need more energy, then sniff the breath in and then let the breath out in one long exhale. And if you need to take it down a few notches, take a full deep breath in and then exhale in little puffs. So think about maybe climbing stairs or walking downstairs when you're doing the sniffing in or you're doing the puffing out. You could also, if you're not quite sure what to pick, you could take steps up and take steps down. So let's do a few rounds of Viloma pranayama. As you're practicing this Viloma pranayama, which means to break apart, it actually means technically against the hair, like the hair going a certain way. So maybe against the grain, but we're breaking apart either the inhale or the exhale or both, noticing how this lands in the physical body, in the energetic body, and if there's any sort of emotion attached to it. And there could also be a thought attached to it, right? So just noticing, right? Being the observer of your thoughts and feelings as opposed to the feeler or the thinker. Think about it that way. Then letting go of the loma, Returning to 3-part Ujjayi breath. I'm taking a few rounds here and noticing any shifts that may have occurred in the energy, in the thoughts, the feelings, even physically. And then we're making a mindful transition onto all fours. So I noticed that I got some saliva, extra saliva in my mouth there. So what does that mean? It means parasympathetic nervous system came online a little bit more. So here, let's activate through the belly. We're moving into some spinal balance. Opposite arm and leg, or we could always move just arm and then just leg, or arm, arm, leg, leg. So rather than continuing to move straight ahead, straight back, let's take it out diagonally. Doing something a little bit different with our practice. Keeps us in the present moment. Now, if you've read any yoga philosophy, and I know some of you have come to some book studies with me, and we've looked at the sutras, and we've looked at the yamas and the niyamas. We might remember that some of the yoga philosophy talks about obstacles and attachments. And we have attachments all over our lives. We're going to balance between our two sides here if you remember where you started. And then from all fours here, let's start to shift from side to side. A true tail wag, allowing the weight to shift from one knee to the other while our hips shift to one side and then the other. And then we might choose to add a little bit of organic movement. Maybe we move our hands further in front. We start to circle, or we might do something like a barrel roll while we're in that all fours position. So just some organic movement here. And then noticing how this lands as we move organically, letting our body guide us in terms of the sensation. Doing what feels good to this physical body for this moment, right? And eventually, when we're ready, let's make our way into child's pose. Maybe opening our knees and letting our belly sink between the thighs, and we'll shift side to side. And we might even explore a little side winding movement. And I'm going to be honest, this is one of my favorite flows here, this side winding. In my body, it just feels so good. So this is a preference, right? And a preference is kind of what we're examining today in our nation and here on our yoga mats. So preferences can become attachments, and attachments can disturb our peace. We're really here to make sure that we remain peaceful, right? So what does that tell us? We need to let go of our attachments. Eventually coming back to our center place, we'll bring our knees here in alignment with our hips, our ankles, sitting back towards child's pose, reaching our arms out long. Let's breathe in, and we'll move to kneeling plank. We're pausing here and lifting up through the heart space, and then breathing out a gentle roundedness, sort of like cat as we press back into child's pose. And we'll flow forward and back here. Unfurling the spine, lifting up through the heart, and then allowing the spine to round. Including the neck, bringing the chin toward the chest. So we're feeling from the base of the spine up to the crown of the head, and then crown of the head down to the base of the spine as we flow forward and back. We'll do one more of these flows. And then eventually we'll make our way into downward facing dog. Feeling the belly drawing in, feeling the hips lifting, feeling the steadiness in our starfish hands, holding us strong and solid, steady here as we gently pedal our heels. And then let's make our way into a full plank. Just for a moment, we'll bring our right knee toward the earth, turning out the lower leg, setting the knee down. And let's open up into a kneeling side plank for a few breath cycles. Inviting the head to turn up, eyeballs too. And as we breathe out, we're undoing this and mindfully shifting back into a full plank. We'll switch sides. We'll open up into kneeling side plank. Head, eyeballs turning up, a few breaths here. And then we'll begin a flow between these two sides. Now we're balancing between our sides. And we'll make our way back into our downward facing dog. Our hands anchored and pressing gently away from our feet anchored and pressing gently away from our hands, our bellies drawing in, lifting up our hips, getting longer in the backs of our bodies. And then we'll raise our gaze and walk our feet forward. Making our way into a forward fold, softening our knees. And we'll root down and rise as we breathe in. Breathing out, mountain pose. Here we are, standing. Finally, and we'll take our feet into a wide stance. So we'll start a little bit of flow here in our standing, wide stance, toes out, heels are in, knees are bending and tracking consistently, comfortably over our ankles, and then we'll root those feet. So feeling the strength and solidity, arms sweep up as we breathe in, and we sink into moonflowers here. So each of us moving at a pace that feels right for this moment, breath and flowing movement together. So maintaining that union of the mind and body through the flowing poses and the breath. The next time we exhale and sink into moonflowers, palms up, and then we'll cross one arm over the other in front as we breathe in. Breathing out, we come back, breathing in 5-pointed star, breathing out moonflower. So this is our flow here. This time we cross the other arm on top. We'll keep those elbows hugged in towards the ribs as we give our rotator cuffs a little love here. We are balancing between our two sides here. And then we'll transition into a sunflower. Last sunflower here, and we're meeting in goddess pose for a little kriya. As we breathe out, elbows in, 1 and 2, that's shh, shh. And then as we breathe in, elbows out. Shh, 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 shh. Now keep going while I'm talking, because we are strongly pushing our arms toward each other, strongly pulling them away. So creating muscle resistance, power here. Shh, 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 shh. One more. Release the breath. 5-pointed star, breathing in, and pause the breath. And release. Let's move back into mountain pose. So from here, hands on our hearts. We'll take a few breaths here. So the kriya means purifying action. So the powerful breath, exhale, the strong movement, that helps to release stuff that we don't need, in particular toxins, but we can also look at our yoga practice as a tool that helps us let go of the stuff that doesn't serve us, such as fear and anxiety about what the outcome of the day is for today. So the rest of our practice is going to be about trying to purify and let go. So we move to flying bird, and the flying bird will be about letting go of the stuff that we're holding on to. Okay, so as we step back into a lunge, we're letting go fear, anxiety, name it, and then name it to claim it, and then we come back and we're gathering in what we need, right? So peace, love, joy, gratitude. Other side, letting go fear and anxiety, bringing in peace, love, joy, gratitude. Now you can use different emotions, but that's what I'm choosing today. I'm letting go of fear and anxiety. And I'm bringing in peace, love, joy, gratitude. You might even, palms are open to release, grab on to what you need with those palms, bringing those fists into the heart. And while we're at it, why not practice alternating arms in front, because that activates a little bit more the 2 hemispheres of the brain. So these are all tools that we can use to maintain our peace, because that's why we're here, right? We are using our practice to maintain peace. Now we're going to balance between our two sides. We've let go, we've brought in, and here we are back in mountain pose. I'm sure there must be a mudra, that this must be a mudra, that it has a meaning, right? Our fists at our hearts. So it's similar to Garuda. We'll do that one later. We're shifting onto our right foot, the left foot steps back. And let's pivot our back foot down, and we'll reach our arms up. And here we are in a warrior. Strong and powerful, steady and mighty, feeling into the lower body. We're grounded here. And as we breathe out, we're bowing into humble warrior. So we fold toward that front leg, reaching our arms out like airplane wings. We're drawing the chin in a bit, lengthening the neck, the nose points straight down. Steady breath. And we're going to reaffirm that letting go and the receiving. So as we breathe in, reaching our arms forward, we're gathering in, reaching up. And then as we breathe out, we're letting go of the stuff that we don't need. So drawing in, well, let's bring it into the heart. Let's bring it into the heart rather than arms up, and then letting go as we bow down. Arms come forward, we're coming up, and then we're releasing it as we bow down. Now, the whole act of bowing, right? We're accepting. Some of us might have to be doing some bowing today as we accept, right? We are humbling ourselves, right? This is our last one. And then the next time we're in our warrior, let's reach those arms up. And then we're opening to face the long edge of the mat. And now this becomes a warrior two. So with our warrior stance, reaching out, opposite directions. Let's press through the heels of the palms. You guys know what's next, right? It's our fearless flow. So we're shifting forward and back, keeping the lower body still. Now, I like to do the fearless flow a lot. I know you probably recognize that because we're dealing with a lot of fear out in the world, right? Especially on a day like today. This flow helps us to push back against the obstacles that are in our path, right? And where do most of those obstacles come from? Well, honestly, they're mostly us, right? We're kind of in our own way. So we might practice things like, I am fearless. I am fearless. The next time we're forward, front palm to the sky. And now we're in our reverse warrior, but this is also known as peaceful warrior. Let's make the okay signs with our hands. In this moment, I'm okay. This is a powerful mantra or an affirmation because sometimes this is all we can do is say, oh, yeah, right now, in this moment, I'm okay. In this moment, I'm okay, right? I'm alive, I'm breathing, I have all I need, all my needs are met, even though I may not like what's going on around me. I'm maintaining my own peace by affirming that in this moment, I'm okay, and I'm still okay, and I'm still okay. All right, now we're taking this into reverse triangle by lengthening that front leg. And as we breathe out next, finding triangle. So we'll start to wave or circle that top arm. And eventually we'll meet and pause in a triangle. And we could reach that left arm up, the right arm down, or that left hand can be on the hip. But we're turning the head and the gaze up toward the sky. And we're feeling the breath, expanding our energy, our prana, into all the places and spaces where we're feeling that sensation of the pose. Now, as we breathe out, we're softening into the front knee, bringing both hands to the mat. and turning up the back heel. So we're in a low lunge. Now in the low lunge, we're exploring a twist. So at first, let's make it a flowing twist. As we breathe out, we'll twist, hand to the hip, and then we'll come back into our low lunge. Exhale, twisting, inhaling, undoing. And the next time we're in the twist, maybe reaching the arm up toward the sky, maybe the hand is on the hip. And we're undoing. And we're stepping the back foot forward into forward fold. We're softening our knees. Let's root down and rise as we breathe in, lifting up through the heart and breathing out, chair pose. So here in our chair pose, maybe lifting one heel at a time. Maybe reaching our arms out long at our shoulder heights, maybe lowering our hips a little bit more, maybe rising up on the balls of our feet for a balancing chair. Now we'll lower our heels, we'll root and rise as we breathe in. And breathing out, let's find a forward fold. Here with our hands on our thighs, our shins, maybe our ankles, or down to our big toes. We might even find our a block. We're bending our knees enough so that the belly and the thighs meet. And we might draw our chin in a little bit, shining our crown of the head down, and turning our head side to side and nodding our head yes. And eventually, releasing, rooting and rising, and coming back to mountain pose. Let's find the gesture of Garuda, which is right hand on the heart, left hand over the right, thumbs interlaced, fingers spread out. We'll take a few breaths here. This is one of my favorite mudras. It helps to enhance the immune system, but it also balances one of the doshas called Vata. I think most of you know the Vata dosha. We're in the Vata season right now. And so we can get a little out of whack in terms of our Vata energy. And that Vata energy is related to movement, but negative emotions that are related to Vata are fear and anxiety. So a couple of breaths more here in the Garuda Mudra. And then we'll shift our weight onto our left foot. The right foot steps back. We'll pivot the back heel down. We'll release our arms up into our warrior one. We're feeling down into the lower body, the groundedness, the steadiness, the strength. Maintaining a steady, smooth breath. As we breathe out next, we're folding toward our front leg and sweeping our arms behind us like airplane wings, and we're in our humble warrior. And as we breathe in, those arms start to sweep forward, and we're drawing what we need into the heart space. We breathe out and release, and arms reach back. So we're finding this flow here where we are, again, receiving what we need. For me, peace, love, joy, gratitude, and then releasing fear and anxiety. We might also incorporate mantra affirmation into this, if that's a better idea, such as I am fearless, or I release my fear, right? And then I embody peace, love, joy, gratitude. last flow here. And the next time we've brought that in, our peace, our love, our joy, our gratitude, we'll sweep our arms up on our in-breath, and then we'll open into a warrior two. So we're pressing through the heels of our palms, and once more moving through our fearless flow. And maybe this affirmation, I am fearless. I release my fear and anxiety. I embody peace, love, joy, gratitude. These practices, while we're moving and breathing, not only enhance our physical body, right? We're impacting our nervous system, but also the layer, according to yoga philosophy, the layer of the mind and the emotions. The next time we're forward, the front palm goes to the sky. We're in our peaceful warrior, the okay sign, and in this moment, I'm okay. So these are tools that we can use to shift our experience out in the world. I use these tools all the time. I hope you guys do as well. When you're feeling anxious or angry, disappointed, whatever it is, we can help ourselves come back into a more self-regulated state with our tools. I'm not saying that we should never feel those emotions. We're all going to feel those emotions. But we also recognize that if we're feeling angry, then that doesn't serve us, and it doesn't help us to be a good person out in the world to our friends, our families, our loved ones, right? And so the sooner we can shift out of that, the better. We're taking this into reverse triangle, and then we're windmilling into triangle. So pressing through that right hip, we're waving or circling that top arm, if that feels comfy for our shoulder. And eventually, we're pausing, and we'll turn our head, our gaze up toward the sky. Feeling the breath, moving into all the places where we're feeling sensation. And as we exhale next, bending into the front knee, both hands to the mat, the back foot, heel turning up, and we'll transition into our flowing twist as we breathe out, hand to hip, breathing in, undoing. We'll do this 4 more times. On the last time we're holding, and we might even take that arm up toward the sky, turning our head, our gaze up. And we're undoing that twist, and we're stepping that back foot forward into a forward fold. Softening our knees enough so belly and thighs connect. Maybe opposite hand to elbow this time. Or we might invite the torso to rotate gently one side to the other while the legs remain centered and still. Or we might allow the torso to stay centered and the weight to shift from one side to the other. And then we'll come to center, we'll lift halfway up. We'll pause here. In our half lift, we might take our arms out like airplane wings. And as we inhale, let's sweep our arms toward the earth and then up into tree pose. from tree, moving into balancing pigeon. So we might bring the hands to the heart as we bring our left ankle across the right thigh. Maybe we come into that Garuda mudra here. So we're combining a pigeon and an eagle together. And speaking of eagle, why don't we take the left leg over to the eagle legs? We can maintain the Garuda mudra, which means eagle. Or we can find our eagle arms with the left arm crossing the right, or elbows together, palms together, whatever version feels best. And steady breath. And then we'll undo mindfully, maybe rotating out that right ankle. All right, so we'll come right into tree. And we'll transition into our balancing pigeon, perhaps with the Garuda mudra at the heart. And we'll transition into eagle. Maybe maintaining our Garuda mudra or bringing our palms, elbows together. Right arm could cross over. And we undo. Coming into mountain pose. Let's make fists. They're coming to the low back region for support as we move into standing camel. On an in-breath, opening the heart space and focusing attention on the inhalation part of the breath cycle. Back to a neutral spine. Arms are at our sides. A few breaths here, feeling the energy of the heart opening in our standing camel. And breathing in while sweeping up the arms. We're folding forward, hands all the way to the mat. We'll step back into our downward facing dog. Once more, pressing hands away from feet, feet from hands. And let's find our knees coming down to the mat. And we'll move into a thread the needle. So we'll take our left arm behind the right, and we can bring the shoulder down to the mat, maybe a head onto a block. And that right arm can stay right where it is. It can reach out long over the head with hand on the floor, or maybe arm up toward the sky, or arm reaching behind the back. And using our steady breath here. When we're ready, we're undoing and then switching sides. And finding the just right position for the left arm here on the other side. And we'll undo as we're ready. And we're making our way down onto our backs. So we'll sit off to either side, sweeping our legs around, and then we'll roll onto our backs. And if you have a block or a blanket, bring that nearby. And so we'll start in knees to chest pose. We'll bring the knees in and we'll rock side to side and circle around a few times in that lower back. And then we'll bring our feet down to the mat and we'll lift up our hips, sliding the block or the blanket beneath the lower back, letting the hands rest on the torso. And we're breathing into the supported bridge here. And then we're bringing one knee and then the other into the chest. And we're taking the legs up to the sky. Now we can keep the hands resting on the torso, or we can take the arms out like a T with the palms up. Or we could even take the arms a little more over the head so they're shaped like a Y and we're opening the armpits. So when we open our armpits, when we engage in heart opening poses, it is uplifting to our mood. And while our legs are up, toxins that pool in our legs during the day get moved back into the bloodstream and get removed through our filtering organs there in the torso. So when we practice legs up pose, it is a detoxifying posture. It also sends oxygenated blood to the thyroid, enhancing our overall well-being. So this is a great pose actually to do every day. I don't do it every day, but I should. You can do it in bed even. It's a lovely way to end the day. So we'll take a few more breath cycles here. Our next option is to invite the legs to open out to the sides. And we can use our hands to create a little perch for both legs. And when we're ready, activating through our inner thighs and our bellies, and we can help bring those legs up with our hands. We'll bend our knees, and then we'll lower one foot and then the other. And we'll come back into the supported bridge for a few breaths. And eventually we'll lift up the hips. We'll slide the block out. And we'll move into our constructive rest for a few breaths. Now let's bring our right knee into the chest. We'll take our arms out like a T. We'll press the left foot in the mat and lift up our hips. Now we're rolling onto the right hip, setting the hip down, bringing both knees together, and then allowing the knees to both move toward the right side. We can bring the block or the blanket beneath the knees. This is belly twisting pose. We'll turn the head toward the opposite side. Eyeballs too. Eventually we'll undo. We'll bring our feet back to the mat and resituate our hips. And then we'll switch sides to the left knee in the chest, the right foot presses in the mat, our hips lift up, and then we're rolling onto our left hip, uniting our knees, and then bringing both knees down. Remember, we can use a block or a blanket beneath those knees. We want our right shoulder blade to be on the mat. And if we're finding that challenging, that's where using the prop can be helpful. And then turning the head toward that right outstretched arm, eyeballs too. And then eventually we're undoing, bringing our feet back to the mat, re-centering our hips. And either staying in constructive rest pose for a few breaths, or maybe drawing the knees into the chest, maybe even bringing the forehead up toward the knees, stretching the upper back. And eventually we're making our way into our final pose. Now, during our practice, for several minutes, let's focus attention on an affirmation. What resonated with you today? Was it fearlessness? Was it worry, anxiety? Was it peace, love, joy, gratitude? So our affirmation is a positive thought. We can say, I am fearless, that's positive. We wish to affirm a positive shift, right? So I am fearless, or I am anxiety free, I'm carefree, right? Would be ways to affirm that shift from fear, anxiety, worry. Or it might be, I am calm and centered and grounded. I am filled with peace and love. So finding that affirmation for focus. And that will be our anchor here as our body has physically relaxed, as our breath has returned to a natural state or is on its way to a natural state. That mind is anchored on that affirmation. And I'll say one more thing about affirmations. We might feel, our brain might say, well, I am not these things. But the way affirmations work is as we focus our attention on that statement, the more time we spend on it, the more true it becomes. So we need to continue to repeat it, to affirm it, and the brain starts to send more neural connections to it. Unfortunately, the same thing happens with a negative thought. We can create more neurons, more energy for the negative thought. That's why we want to shift into that positive state. And as we affirm it, it will grow. It will become true. For those of you that were here on Thursday, I'm going to reread the yoga wisdom reading from that day because it's very pertinent for today. And it's called Let It Go. How important is it really anyway? Is it life or death? Or is it something that has been fixed in your mind for so long that you simply can't release it? Once you truly let something go, you free yourself from the tyranny of a thought or of a habit. You can now choose a different way of thinking or being, and more importantly, you open up to receive a greater range of thoughts and experiences. Your act of release unlocks the world's abundance and welcomes it into your life. Simply soften, release, and receive. So the final tool I want to share today is Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breathing, and it is a pranayama practice which balances our energy. And I call it a back pocket breathing technique because if you are anxious, fearful, have too much energy, then this will balance it. And if you are the opposites, heavy, sad, lethargic, it will balance that. So that means it's a great technique to use anytime, right? So if you like, you can stay lying in Shavasana for the breath technique, or you could come to seated position. And you could do it with hands, with a hand on the face or without. You could visualize it if you prefer to stay lying down and your arms relaxed. But regardless of what you're choosing, we're going to shift the eyes from side to side. So we'll breathe in left and eyes will shift left. Breathe out right, eyes shift right. Breathe in right, eyes stay right. And then breathe out left and eyes shift left. So the eyes will be shifting back and forth. And this is, again, another technique that helps to balance the sides of the brain and keeps us more present and focused and in control. So let's begin. We'll start by breathing in left, breathing out right, breathing in right, breathing out left. We'll continue that pattern. We'll wrap up With the next left nostril exhale, we'll take a few moments to notice any shifts in the physical, the energetic, the mental, emotional layer. What about inner wisdom? How about bliss? If you're still lying down, please roll to one side and move into a seated place. And we'll meet in the Garuda Mudra. Our head bowing, grateful for our physical body, for our health, for our yoga tools, for the opportunity to start our day with wellness. And let's remember on this pivotal day that we are one nation filled with people who do all want the same things as we do. The ability to live our lives, to be happy, to be healthy, to be peaceful. And we can choose to be peaceful. We have the tools. It has been my delight to guide you today. I hope that you feel great and got just what you needed. Have a blessed day, everyone, and I'll see you on Thursday.